Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 108. Particles of Light. As if there was some kind of grand sacrificial ceremony being held, bursts of flame soared into the sky and immediately bathed the horizon crimson. Xiangshu raised his spear, and together with 4,000 Tile and Akele warriors, he began to launch an assault at the lakeside. Zhou Zhen had immediately activated the Zheng drum in response, but the moment those bones leaped out to the bank, they were doused with fire oil and burnt by raging flames. The warriors charged in one after another with their mouths and noses covered, knocking all the bones back into the lake with their heavy armored war horses. Those skeletons, reduced to ashes under the burning inferno, were blown away by the strong wind and scattered all over heaven and earth. It had never crossed Zhou Zhen's mind that Xiangshu would actually use this kind of move to foil his plan. The beating of the Zheng drum stopped. On the island in the center of the lake, he stood and looked at Xiangshu from afar. "Shulakong, long time no see," said Zhou Zhen. "Sure enough, you came." Che Lukfeng actually retreated half a step at this and said to Xiangshu, "Don't go over there. Anda, he's thinking of a way to deal with you." Zhou Zhen smiled coldly and suddenly shook the Zheng drum. As a loud dong echoed, a shockwave spread. After all of the dead bones had retreated underwater, Zhou Zhen put away the Zheng drum and lifted the pitch-black antler staff. The burning water of Barkal Lake surged over and over. Those bones underwater crumbled before once again reassembling themselves. After several breaths, a long serpent draped in flames rose from the water with a loud bang. All the warriors shouted at once. Xiangshu yelled out, "Fall back! Let out the grappling chains!" Rallying cries coming from the outside were so loud it could even shake heaven. Chen Xing, however, was still sleeping behind the tree as the light of those flames kept flickering on his face. He slept and slept, his head unconsciously tilting to one side. After getting their grappling chains ready, both the Akele and Tile warriors threw them out to hinder that skeletal serpent that had just flown out of the water. The serpent, its whole body bathed in fire, continuously burned under the raging inferno. Yet it, still unreconciled, let out a roar as it charged toward the lakeside. Xiao Shan urged his horse toward them and shouted, "Gag!" Xiangshu immediately turned his head to look before shouting, "All yours!" As Xiao Shan activated Kangxian Yuli, thunder and lightning gathered and spread all over the lake surface. That bolt, striking from the heaven down to the earth and from the earth back to the heaven, struck that giant serpent and disintegrated it into pieces. "Where's Chen Xing?" Xiao Shan asked. "Sleeping." Xiangshu shouted in return. "Xiao Shan." Xiangshu withdrew and hurried to the other side of the lake. He then fetched a shield from his subordinate before shouting, "Che Lukfeng." Che Lukfeng, who finally made up his mind after giving Xiangshu another look, charged toward the lake together with him. Treading on the unmelted ice in the northwestern surface of the lake on their shields, they moved rapidly toward the small island in the center of the lake. Upon seeing this, Zhou Zhen immediately turned around and went to the altar, constantly gasping for breath. When Xiangshu and Che Lukfeng arrived on the island, Zhou Zhen said in a deep voice, "You still brought him in the end." Xiangshu looked at Che Lukfeng, who shouted at him, "I have not betrayed you." "I have not. Anda. I've been telling you all along not to come. He has set up a trap, he wants to deal with you on this island." Xiangshu just replied in a profound voice, "Then come and try." "Zhou Zhen, even after death, you are still unwilling to rest in peace." With a cold sneer forming on the corners of his mouth, Zhou Zhen pulled away the animal hide covering the altar to reveal the corpse of a giant wolf, its whole body covered in a deep ash color. On the lakeside, amidst the rolls of thunder and flashes of lightning, Tuoba Yan rushed in with his horse. Xiao Shan yelled, "Send me up." Sima Wei thrust his heavy iron spear forward. Tuoba Yan jumped from his horse and, stepping on the spear, he soared upward. With one claw hooking Tuoba Yan's collar, Xiao Shan turned over and positioned himself on the top of Tuoba Yan's head. As Tuoba Yan followed up by putting his halberd across, Xiao Shan stepped on its handle and finally made a powerful leap. He borrowed the power of these two jumps to fly to a height of nearly 10 zhang. Xiao Shan directly met that skeletal serpent that was just about to soar while brandishing the claw that could alarm even the heavens, his Kangshan Yuli. That claw drew in claps of thunder that could nearly exterminate the whole world. A powerful light sparked and pierced through the body of that serpent, striking it to pieces on the spot. Its burning bones dispersed and fell to the earth, looking like a flaming meteor shower amidst the dark night. While still emitting high temperatures, those burnt pieces of bones flew into the forest, with one small fragment directly falling into Chen Xing's collar. What in the... Chen Xing, who had been in the middle of sleeping, madly bounced up as if he got possessed, shouting, "Hot! Hot! What's happening? What's this?" Chen Xing fiercely shook his whole body, causing the bone fragment to fall. He was still in the middle of frantically scratching his back with his hands when he caught sight of the burning Barkle Lake in the distance, which made him freeze immediately. "Where's Xiangshu?" Chen Xing shouted. "Xiangshu!" Chen Xing bolted out of the forest. Xiao Shan, Tuoba Yan, and Sima Wei were in the middle of leading the troops to cross the lake when more fire-coated skeletons rushed out from within the water, unwilling to give up as they tried to escape the flaming area. At this moment, Yuduo showed up. Led by Yuduo, the regrouped Akele drought fiends advanced toward the lakeside as they joined the fray. "I'll take you all there," Yuduo shouted. Yuduo then threw off the iron chain in his hand. Unexpectedly, it transformed into a huge rope that could be used to cross the river, destroying the bones blocking the way with one move as it shot directly toward the island in the middle of the lake. Chen Xing yelled, "Go! Find Xiangshu!" Thus, the crowd climbed up the iron chain and rushed to the center island. On the island in the middle of the lake, a moment after Zhou Zhen pulled open the hide covering, the giant wolf on the altar slightly opened its muddy eyes while exuding a dangerous aura. "It hasn't been totally refined yet," Zhou Zhen said. "Let's see whether you, the greatest warrior of the land beyond the Great Wall, can withstand the power of the wolf god Ba." Zhou Zhen suddenly retreated. Xiangshu immediately stood in front of Che Lufeng, covering him. The moment that giant wolf opened its eyes and caught sight of Xiangshu, it immediately howled and rushed toward the two of them. Xiangshu pressingly pushed Che Lufeng away as he shouted, "Take care of Zhou Zhen." Che Lufeng immediately drew his bow, knocking the arrow as he rushed to the back of the altar. In that small time frame, that corpse of the grey wolf shifted its paws after crouching down, it lunged at Xiangshu with its claw swooping down. As he leaped back in response, Xiangshu drew and readied his sword mid-air, only for it to break after meeting the shockwave created by the grey wolf's claws. The snapped part of the sword recoiled and gave rise to a bloody mark on one side of Xiangshu's face. After landing bent down with one hand supporting his body, Xiangshu rolled about immediately to evade the attack. Wherever the grey wolf's claws went, the stones and tiles on the island shattered. "Xiangshu!" Chen Xing shouted as he rushed off the chain. Seeing the grey wolf roar as it lunged at him once more, Xiangshu knew that it was already too late to avoid the attack. But not a moment too soon, the heart lamp burst out. Xiangshu immediately made a turn after a shield manifested itself on his left hand, preparing to use it to hold the grey wolf's attack while his other hand readied the sword. The grey wolf lunged at Xiangshu. But right at the moment it was about to make contact, Xiangshu, now draped in a martial robe that radiated golden light, confidently waved his shield and gave the grey wolf a head-on blow. Dang! The grey wolf's skull surprisingly got dented by that strike. With his extremely formidable strength, Xiangshu actually used a shield to deflect that huge behemoth weighing about 1,000 jin. Turning its head, the grey wolf fixed its eyes on Xiao Shan, who was currently staring at it in a daze. "Don't space out!" Chen Xing shouted. "Go get Zhou Zhen." After Tuoba Yan and Sima Wei got off the chain, they immediately rushed into the dense forest on the island, which was actually very small since it only covered a radius of no more than several dozens of steps. After Zhou Zhen went to hide in this forest, Che Lufeng chased him inside while shooting out arrows in rapid succession. Zhou Zhen sneered. "So, in the end, you still chose Shulakong?" Che Lufeng said, his voice trembling, "Zhou Zhen, come back. Since even Yuduo can be resurrected, surely you too can." Zhou Zhen said, "Why do you always make me follow all of your whims every single time? It was still like that until the moment I died. You just can't." At this time, Tuoba Yan and Sima Wei showed up inside the forest, each of them armed with a weapon. Together with Che Lufeng, they surrounded Zhou Zhen from 3 directions. Xiang Shu, whose body was radiating golden light, walked toward the grey wolf under the influence of the light of Chen Xing's heart lamp. The grey wolf opened its mouth, exhaling breaths filled with decayed aura as black blood dripped from his teeth. "Wait." In a moment of desperation, Xiao Shan spread his arms and stood in front of the grey wolf. "Xiao Shan." Chen Xing knew what the grey wolf meant to Xiao Shan, but at this moment, not only was that wolf no longer the former grey wolf, it also didn't remember Xiao Shan anymore. Xiang Shu stopped moving and frowned while fixing his gaze at Xiao Shan. But then, the grey wolf, as if sensing some kind of danger, suddenly pulled back. In the forest, Zhou Zhen said in a low voice, "How else would I have become what I am today, if it wasn't because of that momentary impulse of yours? If you really want to kill me, then let go of that arrow ba. Use your own hands to shoot me in the chest with that one arrow." "I know." Che Lufeng trembled. He couldn't shoot out the arrow and just said, voice still shaking, "I've always known. Come back ba, Zhou Zhen. You will surely be able to live like how it was, just like them. Zhou Zhen, come back. To act as your slave, just like before." Che Lufeng looked at Zhou Zhen, stumped for words, while Zhou Zhen just sneered at him in response. "Your Shulakong, his life won't last long." As he said so, Zhou Zhen raised his antler staff and gently tapped it at the ground. The moment the antler staff touched the ground, a bright light burst out and began to spread all around the entire island. Standing in front of the altar, Xiang Shu's body suddenly lost all of its strength, and even the brilliance coming out of his whole body totally dissipated. That strange magical array took away all of his body's strength, making him feel as if there was a giant hammer striking him right in the head. The mark on the ground kept expanding and went past Chen Xing's feet to cover the whole island. Chen Xing stepped back a little, immediately recognizing the thing. "Damn it! It's the dragon binding array." Gig. Xiao Shan quickly rushed forward, but Xiang Shu had already lost consciousness and fell directly to the ground. "Watch over him!" Chen Xing yelled. "We must quickly get Zhou Zhen and destroy this magical array." Back in the forest, Sima Wei and Tuoba Yan both turned into phantoms that swiftly launched toward Zhou Zhen. However, Zhou Zhen just leaped back and rolled over in the air while shouting, "I won't keep you company. If you truly wish to die, then come to Karasha." Saying so, Zhou Zhen swiftly rushed out of the forest and dashed to the altar. But when he was just about to grab Xiang Shu and fly away with him, a burst of light coming from Chen Xing's heart lamp confronted him head-on. A moment later, accompanied by Yuduo's shout that was filled with anger, an iron chain shot out and firmly tied him from all around. Chen Xing practically gave his all for that one move when he saw Xiang Shu in danger. He made use of what he had learned all his life to create the yin-yang seal with both hands, sending out a light sphere made of the heart lamp's power that hit Zhou Zhen with a loud bang. Zhou Zhen didn't even have the time to let out a scream as the heart lamp's bright light enveloped him. It was as if time had been frozen in some strange way as the iron chain continuously moved around and locked him in place. After being kept under control by Chen Xing and Yuduo's joint effort, Zhou Zhen, locked in some kind of strange posture high above the sky, opened his muddy eyes wide and stared at Chen Xing. With one shake from Yuduo's chain, the antler staff on Zhou Zhen's hand was gotten rid of and fell from the sky. Afterward, the spark of the dragon binding array on the island gradually faded away. "Have you forgotten that I'm also here?" Chen Xing coldly said before angrily shouting, "Exorcise!" As Yuduo tugged on the iron chain, Chen Xing pressed his hand that was emitting a brilliant light on Zhou Zhen's forehead. Che Lufeng and the others rushed out of the forest and could only stare blankly at this scene. While Zhou Zhen continuously struggled, he still couldn't escape from his shackles. The heart lamp, similar to the gale that swept away the dense fog, unceasingly dispersed the resentment on his whole body. The moment Chen Xing pressed his hand on Zhou Zhen's forehead, just like the moment the exorcised Fei Tian Ye, countless chaotic memories flooded into his mind all of a sudden. In the first month of the lunar calendar, the weather was so cold to the point the ground froze. Cold winds blew all over the prairie, gently sweeping across Gle Chuan. "Did you find it?" The 15-year-old, refined, and bright Che Lufeng had been expecting Zhou Zhen's return for a long time. Zhou Zhen opened his palm. There were 4 plumes of a golden bird inside, all of them similar in length. "I chased the bird for over 1,000 li before finally finding it at the summit of Mount Qilian," Zhou Zhen answered. Zhou Zhen's arms still had blood stains he got from being cut by some rocks. Che Lufeng's eyes lit up. He smiled as he took those plumes and, lowering his head, he continued making his feathered crown. "Took you long enough to find it?" It could be clearly seen that Che Lufeng was slightly dissatisfied with Zhou Zhen. "You've been gone for half a year, even if you hadn't found it, couldn't you at least send a letter back?" Zhou Zhen said nothing in return. He, whose clothing was already ragged and tattered, had been exposed to the sun to the point he had tanned, looking as if he had shed a layer of skin. With a smile, he sat down inside the tent and drank some milk tea. "If you like it, then it's worth it. I hope I'll be able to make it in time." After finding the unfinished feathered crown, Che Lufeng inserted the gleaming golden bird plumes into it. Zhou Zhen suddenly felt a bit uneasy. Indeed, not long after that, Che Lufeng pulled the rest of the plumes off the crown one after another. "Not good," Che Lufeng was distracted, his heart full of anxiety as he said, "the other plumes don't match up with these golden birds' ones. It's too late after all, I won't be able to finish it by the time he's taking over as the great Chan Yu." Zhou Zhen kept his silence. Che Lufeng seemed to notice something and threw away the feathered crown, putting zero concern to it. And so, just like that, the unfinished work was so casually thrown aside, abandoned and neglected, while Che Lufeng hurried out of the tent. Zhou Zhen was still quietly sitting inside the tent when Chen Xing, who appeared behind him, gently tapped him on the shoulder. "Zhou Zhen," probed Chen Xing. Zhou Zhen got up and walked out of the tent, his whole body emitting black qi as he said in barely more than a whisper, "I am not reconciled. I am not reconciled." Outside the Ruran camp, a graceful-looking young man came urging his horse from afar. It was none other than half-grown, young Xiangshu. "Shulakong." Che Lufeng was waiting for him. "Is Zhou Zhen back yet?" Xiangshu shouted. "Let me dispatch people to make him easier to find." When Che Lufeng turned his head to look at Zhou Zhen in front of the tent, Xiangshu also saw him. "Zhou Zhen, what exactly did you go for?" Xiangshu said from afar. "I even thought you both weren't going to attend my succession ceremony." "Che Lufeng, we're coming. Come on, Zhou Zhen." The snow covering the whole world was only getting heavier and heavier when Zhou Zhen left the camp and went toward Gle Chuan. Che Lufeng was carrying a shield on his back. The people of Gle Chuan climbed the mountain and started to sled one after another. Braving the wind and snow, Che Lufeng shouted, "Anda!" The 15-year-old Xiangshu was currently playing with a group of 7 or 8-year-old children, asking them to guess which of his hands was holding sweets. When he heard the call, he turned to look at Che Lufeng. Che Lufeng patted the shield on his hand as he looked at Xiangshu. Xiang Shu just opened his palm and gave the sweets to the children before turning around to leave. Che Lufeng immediately chased after him, blocking Xiang Shu's path as they reached the bottom of Qi Li Chuan's ancient tree. He was slightly nervous, his expression actually looking like a child that was totally at a loss. Sledding, Che Lufeng finally managed to speak out. Xiang Shu, with an unclear smile on his face, simply replied, "I won't go." However, Che Lufeng still stubbornly blocked Xiang Shu's way just as before, his eyes reddening a little. Xiang Shu put forth his index and middle fingers, first touching Che Lufeng's shoulder and gently pushing him away, before once again patting his shoulder and saying in his ear, "I won't go. You are my Enda, and I don't sled with Enda." As he slipped past Che Lufeng, Xiang Shu cast a glance that seemingly contained profound meaning to one side. Zhou Zhen quickly chased after him. Looking as if he had been insulted, he said in a deep voice, "Shulakong, I want to talk to you." But Xiang Shu just got on his horse and went away. Che Lufeng lowered his head. He looked at the shield in his hand, not saying anything for a while, and finally threw the shield aside. Zhou Zhen took the shield and proceeded to hold Che Lufeng's wrist as he earnestly said, "I'll take you there. Just treat me as Shulakong." Che Lufeng raised his eyebrows. All of a sudden, the snowflakes that filled the whole sky gently dispersed, replaced by pale ashes rising from the burning brazier inside the tent. In this place, the faint sound of people's drinking sprees could be heard from a distant location. A dead drunk Zhou Zhen, his bare upper body only wrapped by a robe made of animal skin, was currently pressing an equally flushed drunk Che Lufeng on the couch, each of them gasping hard for breath. "Chen Xing. He's the great Chen Yu now," Zhou Zhen whispered. "He doesn't want you. Diangxia, he doesn't want you." Che Lufeng, so drunk both of his eyes were thoroughly red, looked straight at Zhou Zhen with a gaze full of meaning. Zhou Zhen first took off the hide robe covering half of his body, revealing the slender and fit body underneath, before he began to tear apart Che Lufeng's martial robe. His action was both rough and straightforward, looking similar to a stallion pushing down another stallion. Give me," Zhou Zhen said. "I am the one. I truly am willing to die for you, Diangxia." It was the first time Chen Xing witnessed this kind of situation. He didn't expect that among Zhou Zhen's lifelong obsessions, such a shocking thought would actually be left behind. At this moment, Zhou Zhen looked exactly like a wild beast. Che Lufeng too didn't have any slightest hint of discontent, he actually nodded and tilted his head to kiss Zhou Zhen on the lips. This scene actually didn't feel unclean in the slightest bit. On the contrary, it was brimming with sincerity. Zhou Zhen gently lowered his trembling hands until he managed to tightly hug Che Lufeng and buried himself in his body. Che Lufeng, whose eyes also carried a hint of daze, blankly looked at Zhou Zhen's eyes as he raised his hand to shift Zhou Zhen's hair, making it cover the sides of his face. At that moment, Zhou Zhen seemed to notice something. Che Lufeng's lips were trembling all along, but in the end, he didn't call out that name and just closed his eyes. But soon afterward, Che Lufeng's naked body began to transform into a pool of the devil's blood that moved in reverse, wrapping itself around Zhou Zhen's body. "Get up!" Chen Xing shouted. "Zhou Zhen." Zhou Zhen also started to feel at a loss of what to do. He just looked down at his own body as the blood that continued to wrap itself around his whole body produced a weird voice belonging to Chug. "Hated ba." Chug's bewitching and hoarse voice sounded out. "That's correct." Chen Xing grabbed Zhou Zhen by the shoulder and pulled him toward himself. After that, he took a hold of that ever-flowing devil's blood that was circling Zhou Zhen's body with one hand. "Deity of war," Chen Xing coldly said, "get out of his body." Chug's voice whispered, "To live is also to suffer. Everything you invest in during your life must be reciprocated in any case. What harm is there in turning your unattainable goal into hatred?" Zhou Zhen came to a realization and began to struggle. Chen Xing yelled hard as he pulled out the devil's blood attached to Zhou Zhen's naked body. Chen Xing stood in front of Zhou Zhen, covering him. The devil's blood slowly rose and, condensing into a tall shape of a person, it calmly asked in a deep and low voice, "Wielder of the heart lamp, this time, with what reason are you going to illuminate his heart?" Unexpectedly, Chen Xing had no way to refute Chu's statement. Chu let out a burst of savage laughter as he continued, "You can't seize him back. His resentment, even you are incapable of resolving it." "Is that so?" Chen Xing slowly said. "Zhou Zhen, what if I told you that Che Lufeng had once drunk the devil god's blood for your sake?" Chu's voice came to an abrupt end. Zhou Zhen's whole body trembled in an instant. Chen Xing added, "Zhou Zhen, this matter truly had happened once before, although it has long been lost and buried away because of the intersection of fate." Zhou Zhen replied, "He did not." "He did." Tears actually gushed out of Chen Xing's eyes out of his control. "But, after drinking the devil god's blood, because of this love of yours, he also ended up with a torn body and crushed bones. Is that the kind of response you expect him to give you?" Before the ancient tide of eternity had been initiated, during his first arrival in Chi Le Chuan, Chen Xing still clearly remembered that Che Lufeng had drunk the devil god's blood given to him by Zhou Zhen. "I." Zhou Zhen muttered. Chen Xing softly said, "You still have a lot of opportunities to verify it, Zhou Zhen. I believe you'll be able to get that answer you desire. But for now, get lost for me." Chen Xing yelled loudly. The devil god's blood, accompanied by Chu's snarl, was thus expelled by the strong light of the heart lamp and scattered away. Back on the island in the middle of the Barkle Lake, the dragon binding array, which was gradually fading away, let out a buzz before completely disappearing. Xiang Shu gasped for breath, struggling on the ground as he attempted to get up. Che Lufeng came to Xiang Shu's side and said in a low voice, "Anda. What's the matter with you?" Another sound came through from inside the forest. The grey wolf showed up once more, unexpectedly not leaving yet. Xiang Shu immediately looked at Chen Xing, who was using the heart lamp to dispel the devil god's blood in Zhou Zhen's body. Tuoba Yan and Sima Wei both readied their weapons while Xiao Shan, getting up, aimed the newly unsheathed Kangshan Yuli at the grey wolf. Seeing the grey wolf roar and throw itself at Chen Xing, who was in the middle of performing a spell, Xiao Shan, Xiang Shu, Tuoba Yan, and Sima Wei, all of them simultaneously rushed out as if their lives depended on it. Flashes of lightning gathered around Xiao Shan's claws, but in the face of the incoming grey wolf's claws, it actually lacked any power to retaliate, and he was thrown to the ground like a kite whose string was broken. Following that, Tuoba Yan and Sima Wei were also knocked away at the same time, leaving only Xiang Shu to stand in front of Chen Xing, who was still casting a spell even now. What followed was the grey wolf opening its mouth to bite Xiang Shu that had just barely regained consciousness. In the depth of Zhou Zhen's consciousness, the tent, the stove fire, even the prairie, everything turned into specks of light that flew to the sky above. "Do you truly mean what you say?" Zhou Zhen had recovered his former beast for hunting robe. His long hair was currently tied up, and he was wearing a beautiful crown signifying his position as the Ruren's greatest warrior on his forehead. Chen Xing nodded before saying, "What if I told you that all of this had once happened at some point in time, that at that time, you didn't get ambushed by Shulakong on the Barkle Lake, but rather, together with Che Lufeng, you took me to the summit of the Yin Mountains? You are free to regard this as an event of the previous life, or something that is yet to happen in the next life, but all in all, on that day, Che Lufeng indeed drank the devil god's blood you had offered to him. He, hoping to die together with you, transformed into a drought fiend." Zhou Zhen looked at Chen Xing, astonished. "Why do I always feel that you look so familiar? I also feel that everything you said had indeed occurred before." Chen Xing calmly answered, "That is indeed the most irrefutable piece of evidence, is it not?" As a brilliant dome full of stars appeared above their heads, Zhou Zhen sighed and nodded his head. "Come back, Ba," Chen Xing said. "You still have a lot, a lot of opportunities to be by the side of the person you like. One day, he will surely get to understand his own heart. No, Zhou Zhen said. I'm so tired, I don't wish to continue this. Just let it end ba. Regardless of the choice he makes, it will ultimately cause him to suffer. What's the point of me clinging on like this? And the answer that I so desire. I've already obtained it too. Chen Xing. Zhou Zhen turned around. Looking up at the lustrous night sky of the prairie, he softly said, Exorcist, let me go ba. Even if I do stay behind, what else can be done? What do I wish to prove? Drinking the devil god's blood and letting Diangxia become a drought fiend, both really aren't my true desire. I'm not a human anymore, moreover, I have also fulfilled my promise, I did die fighting for his sake. Chen Xing, but you. Please tell Diangxia, Zhou Zhen said, to keep on living well, and please also tell him that I still love him. Only, I can no longer guard and stay by his side. In the end, even if it's very difficult, he will have to grow up alone. Zhou Zhen. Chen Xing reached out his hand, wanting to pull Zhou Zhen. Thank you for telling me these. Zhou Zhen smiled. As he turned back, he transformed into countless particles of light that rose high into the night sky. Under the glimmer of dawn that slipped through from the far end of the northern land, the distant Mount Karasha appeared similar to a sleeping dragon below the canopy of the sky. The moment the great wheels of the heaven vein and the earth vein came into contact with each other, Zhou Zhen's body, still bound in chains, began to disintegrate and turned into motes of light. When the light of the heart lamp was withdrawn, tears unknowingly rolled down Chen Xing's eyes as he helplessly watched Zhou Zhen disappear off the chain in front of him. Che Lufeng, standing quietly behind Chen Xing, said in a trembling voice, Zhou Zhen. A thread of light whirled in. It transformed into a shadow in the shape of Zhou Zhen's figure and approached Che Lufeng from behind. The tall man gently hugged Che Lufeng from behind before disappearing once more with a thump, thoroughly returning to the heaven vein from then onward. Chen Xing repeatedly panted while slightly bending down. Raising his head, he told Che Lufeng in a low voice, he left some words. Let me tell you. Where's Xiangshu? Xiangshu. The ground was a complete mess. The people waiting for Chen Xing to finish his spell were scattered all around, but Xiangshu was nowhere to be found. End chapter. Dinghai Fusion Records. Chapter 109. Rescue. Chen Xing was about to go out of his mind, and he was ready to send the entire Achilles camp flying. Calm down. Tuoba Yan said anxiously, grabbing Chen Xing's wrist. In that final moment on the island in the center of Lake Barkal, the grey wolf had appeared once more. It bit down on Xiangshu, dragging him with it as it turned and charged across the waters of the lake, flying away. Xiao Shan hobbled to his feet and immediately whistled, but not one of the wolf packs spread out across the wilderness responded. In the snow, on the mountain ridges, all of the wolves appeared, following behind the grey wolf as they charged again, rushing into the distance. Chen Xing gradually grew calm, and without saying a single word, he looked at Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan dumbly looked back at Chen Xing, before saying, sorry, I couldn't beat it, I don't. This isn't your fault, Chen Xing immediately said. Don't go crazy, Xiao Shan. We'll work together to bring him back. King Akele and his subordinates had already hurriedly begun to form ranks, while Yuduo and his drought fiend army were currently awaiting orders on the banks of the lake. Everyone was waiting for Chen Xing to give the order, as if they had silently agreed that right now, only he had the power to send their troops forth. Che Lufeng had already mounted his horse, saying, I can head north first to see what the situation is like. Wait. Chen Xing immediately said, finally in a calmer state of mind. Do you need help? Chongming walked out of the tent, looking at Chen Xing lazily, his expression one of this time, you finally won't say don't need any, right? Your Majesty the Yao King, Chen Xing finally said, opening his mouth to ask him for help. According to the direction the Grey Wolf left in, please fly right now towards Karasha and investigate Xiangshu's whereabouts. Please use your utmost power to ensure his safety. Very good, Chongming said. This is the third wish, so it shall be. Chongming raised a hand, clasping his hand with Chen Xing's. King Akele will not head forth with us, Chen Xing continued. Tuabayan, you and Sima Wei are in charge of escorting them forth to Karakoram. King Akele's words dried up once again, while Chen Xing added, Uduo will come with us. King Akele glanced at his son who had turned into a drought fiend, then nodded. Chen Xing said, we'll move out now, immediately. Xiao Shan, is your leg a little better? Xiao Shan was holding a branch as a crutch, and he looked confusedly at Chen Xing. His leg was broken by that wolf's bite, Sima Wei said. Chen Xing. Chen Xing was immediately at a loss for words. Why did they only say so now? He immediately knelt down to check the condition of Xiao Shan's wound. Thankfully, it was only broken, and Sima Wei and Tuabayan had already splinted it for him. Xiao Shan said, I must go, that's the Grey Wolf, it's also my. Chen Xing knew what the Grey Wolf meant to Xiao Shan, and he didn't force him either, merely just nodding. The rest of you, depart with me ba, Chen Xing said, walking out rapidly. We'll leave together, Che Lukfeng, don't go off on your own. Che Lukfeng could only nod. The group left the camp. The royal consort already had the servants prepare what they needed, saying, from here to Karasha, it will take 3 days, even at the fastest speed. Do not worry, the great Chanyu will definitely be all right. The phoenix had already flown away. With it there, Xiangshu shouldn't be in any life-threatening danger, but Chen Xing still felt anxiety burning at his heart. The royal consort said to Chen Xing, you all are good children, you will definitely be able to bring him back. Chen Xing nodded. As he looked at the royal consort, his eyes filled with tears, and he couldn't resist giving her a hug. Speaking of which, it's strange, the royal consort said, smiling. Why do I feel like I met you a long time ago, as if we've seen each other before in a dream? This has been prepared for you all, rations for the road, the royal consort continued. This horse was once left here with me, by Yuyan. Chen Xing immediately remembered. That horse that didn't listen to orders and tried to stray from the group halfway through the journey. When you all go back, you must be careful. Chen Xing bade farewell to the royal consort before mounting said horse, heading forth to Karasha. Uduo whistled once. When they left, the snows of the north had already passed, and the skies were clear. The royal consort and King Akele stood under the sunlight, sending them away with their eyes. Uduo rode alone in the very front, leading the way for the rest of them. This time, there was no way for them to ride wolves, so Chen Xing, Xiao Shan, Uduo and Che Lukfeng rode on horses, galloping across the snowy ground, while the rest of the drought fiends could only follow behind on foot. Chen Xing also had to take care of Xiao Shan with his broken bone, and he had him sit in front of himself, not daring to go too fast. From beginning to end, Xiao Shan's mood was very low. Chen Xing could sense that in his heart, Xiao Shan had felt guilty this entire time, because he felt that if it hadn't been for his inability to stop the Grey Wolf, Xiangshu wouldn't have been taken away in his weakest moment. Chen Xing rubbed his head, saying, it's all right, Xiao Shan. I know the Grey Wolf has given you the last of its Yao power, and your fear when you see it now is very normal. Xiao Shan Ned, and Chen Xing continued, Chongming has already gone ahead, so Xiangshu will be fine. When you see Lu Ying, perhaps he will also have a way. Che Lukfeng followed them silently the entire way. A day later, Chen Xing really couldn't hold out any longer, and Xiao Shan was also still wounded, so they had to make camp where they were. Uduo started a campfire for them before heading out to patrol. Xiao Shan leaned up in Chen Xing's embrace, sleeping soundly, while Che Lufeng stared at the fire. Chen Xing was leaning against the tree, and he glanced at Chen Lufeng. Their gazes met, but they both looked away awkwardly. "What did Zhou Zhen say to you?" Che Lufeng asked. "Where's the devil god's blood?" Chen Xing asked. "You probably haven't drunk it yet, give it to me ba." Che Lufeng reached into his robes and pulled out a small bottle. "Why did Yuduo manage to live?" Che Lufeng said, "but Zhou Zhen died." Chen Xing took the small bottle and shook it gently, but he did not open it. Che Lufeng then asked, "Will Shulakong also become like that?" "He won't," Chen Xing replied. "In his heart, there is a seed of the heart lamp." Che Lufeng frowned and watched Chen Xing, who stowed away the devil god's blood, and said, "Tell me ba, your and Zhou Zhen's past. I thought that you would drink it." "If I were to say that I dreamt of you before," Che Lufeng asked skeptically, "would you believe that?" Chen Xing, what was I doing in the dream? Clearly very confused, Che Lufeng murmured to himself, "Just before I met Zhou Zhen, it seemed to be the second month. Without knowing why, I kept having the same dream. I was with a stranger on a lone summit, and he kept telling me not to drink anything that Zhou Zhen gave me." Chen Xing thought of last time, the last conversation that he had had with Che Lufeng. "I wish I could kill him," Che Lufeng said. "But I also can't help being afraid of him." He stared mutely into the flames, saying, "I did have a few times where I really did want to drink it, but I always remembered that dream, until you came. That person in the dream, I feel, was you." Chen Xing's eyebrows raised a slight bit, and he said, "You're just dreaming of what you were thinking about during the day, nothing more. I thought that because the person you loved died but came back to life, you would be very happy." Sometimes, saying such a thing was easy, but if it was himself, if Xiangshu had died and turned into a drought fiend under Wang Zi's power, how would Chen Xing be able to strike that blow, to let him turn into ashes and disintegrate? Che Lufeng said in response, "No. Once I found out that he had died but came back to life, my first reaction was to feel very afraid." "Where?" Chen Xing asked gently. "Lake Barkle," Che Lufeng said. "Near his grave." Back then, Che Lufeng had led the Ruran people in fighting with the Akales over the region of Lake Barkle. Originally, he could have taken a step back and stopped the battle. But because he was young and vigorous, and he had just taken up the role of the tribe leader, he wanted to use his might to stun the rest of the tribes. Without heeding Xiangshu, who was trying to stop him, he launched an attack on Yuduo. Yuduo was once the pride of the Akale people. Aside from Xiangshu, no one else could defeat him, so how could he have seen Che Lufeng as a worthy opponent? After a chaotic battle, to reduce the pointless casualties of his people, Zhou Zhen, despite knowing that he was not Yuduo's opponent, had still, for Che Lufeng's reputation, rode out to meet Yuduo in single combat. "Back then, I was very remorseful," Che Lufeng said, his voice trembling, his hands clenched into fists that he held against his own forehead. "I knew that as long as I didn't say anything, he would help me kill Yuduo, but if I said even a single word, he could have not died." Later, Zhou Zhen put in all his strength, using his life to exchange for another's, into stabbing his long blade into Yuduo's heart, even as he himself was about to be killed. From then on, the Akale people and the Ruran people bore a deep-seated hatred against each other that could not be resolved. In the end, Che Lufeng buried Zhou Zhen on the island at the center of the lake. This time, Che Lufeng hadn't started to rant about wanting to get revenge on King Akale as soon as he saw him. Chen Xing found this a little strange. Wasn't he the one who wanted to kill King Akale, no matter the cost, last time? These years, every time his death anniversary came around, Che Lufeng would go to the grave on the island in the center of the lake to take a look at Zhou Zhen. But just this year, when he came to the shore of the lake, he actually met the revived Zhou Zhen there. Zhou Zhen seemed to have long since known that he would come and handed him a bottle of devil god's blood. Chen Xing suddenly remembered that last time, things must have gone similarly. At the very end, they were interrupted by Xiao Shan, who was hiding in the forest. At the time, Xiao Shan had used Kangxian Yuli to slash open Che Lufeng's midriff, and Zhou Zhen hadn't had the chance to give him the devil god's blood. Because he was even more afraid of exposing his movements, he took off in retreat. Che Lufeng was brought back by his tribesmen to Qi Li Chuan, and his wound healed with treatment. Zhou Zhen must have secretly snuck into Qi Li Chuan after that, convinced Che Lufeng to drink the devil god's blood first, then turned everyone into drought fiends. This time, Che Lufeng's behavior was much more normal. Was it because Xiang Shu, before he had set out, had forbid Che Lufeng from taking any actions in revenge? Or was it because last time, the reason he was so irritable and unable to be controlled was the influence of the devil god's blood? I don't know whether or not I like him, Che Lufeng murmured, staring into the flames. I only know that Zhou Zhen has always liked me. Just like in these years, the same way I liked Shulakong. Chen Xing responded, so after Xiang Shu rejected you, you accepted Zhou Zhen. Che Lufeng said, I know that kind of method where you do everything you can, but not liking someone is as simple as that. There is no way to change that, and there is no way to alleviate the other's agony. I also know that the pain that Zhou Zhen felt is deeper than mine. Since things were like that, I thought, what wrong was there in responding to him? I already had no more hope, so letting me suffer slowly on my own was better than letting two people suffer. Chen Xing said, but sometimes, you would treat him as Xiang Shu, is that right? Che Lufeng didn't respond immediately. He sighed lightly and said, sometimes, but that kind of situation was very rare. I don't know why, but I feel like I met you long ago. To tell you the truth, I do hate you a little. No, I hate you. Chen Xing lifted his eyes to watch Che Lufeng, a helpless smile on his face. Che Lufeng said, ever since he was young, he's liked people like you. You're the one destined to be with him. The moment I saw you enter the city, I knew that he likes you. Chen Xing said quietly, sorry, I stole your enda. Che Lufeng smiled bitterly. It's all my fault, I can't blame anyone else for it. Not only have I not managed to get Shulakong to like me even a little bit, I've also lost Zhou Zhen. Do you like him? Chen Xing asked quietly. I don't know, Che Lufeng said, his voice trembling as he began to sob, now close to losing control over his emotions. He told me to drink the devil god's blood, so that I could stay by his side and be with him for all eternity. I once wanted to drink it so that I could keep him company, but I was afraid. Zhou Zhen was a bodyguard that my dad bought for me. They all said that he was some mixed blood born from a Ruran woman of a small village and a Han person. He's like my Gaig, and I never treated him as a slave. I grew up with him, and he's the one who was truly like an enda to me. But why was it him? Chen Xing reached out his arms and hugged Che Lufeng, who couldn't help but burrow himself against Chen Xing's body as he began to cry loudly. In the dark night, Xiang Shu kept coughing. His shoulder had been pierced through by the sharp fangs of the rotting grey wolf, and he staggered to his feet from the snowy ground. Though he had been injured, he was as unyielding as before. In the darkness of the night, he took up a fighting stance, watching the rotting grey wolf before him closely. All around them were the wolves of the pack, their eyes emitting black qi, as they surrounded Xiang Shu. This place was the eastern range of peaks in Karasha, where the summits were steep and precarious and the wind blew strongly. Xiang Shu was trapped on a peak, and he was surrounded by precarious cliffs. In a valley not too far away, there was a shining veil of light that shimmered with color, enveloping the entire valley. The grey wolf's body erupted with black flame, and from within that black flame, it took human form. It was a tall and sturdily built man whose face was set in a cold expression, and on the side of his face, there was a long scar. Dragon power. The man lowered his head slightly, looking towards the unconscious Yangshu. Father's dragon power, the man said quietly, with it, Lu Ying will be able to. The light in the valley circulated, and that black-clad man lifted a hand, gathering up the resentment between the heavens and the earth. A black flame sprung forth from his hand, blasting straight for the veil of light, and the veil that had been protecting the valley began to shudder ceaselessly. Lu Ying, the man said in a dark tone. I brought it for you, pray. In its body is our father's power dash. In the valley, Lu Ying said quietly, let him go, Xiao Kun. That man called Xiao Kun roared, eat him. Then you'll be able to get better. The sun rose, and Chen Xing shook the soundly asleep Che Lufeng, saying, time to get up. Che Lufeng's face still bore traces of tear stains. This was the exact place that Chen Xing had been ambushed by Xiao Shan last time. If they hurried for another half-day, they would arrive in Karasha. The silhouettes of the mountains shrouded in clouds had already appeared. Xiao Shan rode on the horse, saying to Chen Xing behind him, this way, come with me. This time, the horse didn't turn and leave. Under Xiao Shan's guidance, Chen Xing entered the valley, heading towards the depths of the secret realm. Compared to last time they had come here, this place was exactly the same, no grasses grew in the valley, and everything was barren. When they came to the boundaries of the secret realm, a veil of light warmly blocked their path forward. I see them. Che Lufeng shouted. Chen Xing lifted his head to look, only to see that up high, there stood a man, one hand holding Xiangshu's left arm. Xiangshu's entire body was slumped in his grasp, and they couldn't tell if he was alive or dead. Anxious rage battered away at Chen Xing's heart, and he immediately turned to rush up the slope to the side, but Che Lufeng said, don't go seeking death. You won't be able to climb up. Let me go save him. As soon as he finished speaking, Che Lufeng turned his horse's head around, galloping decisively towards the peak to the east. Yuduo first froze for a moment, before he circled around the valley, heading towards a nearby peak from a different direction. Chen Xing, come into the valley, Lu Ying's warm, gentle voice spoke. Lu Ying. Chen Xing shouted. In the Karasha valley, Chongming took human form, the light of godly flames circling around him as he protected Lu Ying. Lu Ying sat silently, one hand spread. Brilliance shone forth from it, forming the veil of light that blocked off the resentment outside. Across paths both large and small, the resentment kept spreading. But after the revival of all magic, the secret realm seemed to be filled with a strange light, as if it was enveloped in the realm of dreams. He's here. Borrow the power of the earth vein, Chongming said. It is worth a try, but it might alert Chu. Lu Ying replied quietly, this place won't hold out for long, Xiao Kun has returned. Xiao Shan limped towards Lu Ying, leaping into his embrace, hugging his waist. Lu Ying merely raised a hand and stroked his head. Your antlers. Xiao Shan said. Chen Xing and Xiangshu got them back for you. Xiao Shan untied the deer antlers on his back, handing them to Lu Ying. Che Lufeng studied his surroundings, before looking towards the sky. On the Karasha peaks, meteors shining with black flames plummeted down, colliding with the light veil, letting out continued booms in groups of 2 or 3. Chen Xing shouted, Chongming, what's going on here? Didn't I have you go save Xiangshu? Chongming replied, irritated, Guowang tried, but it didn't work. You can make another wish later. Don't worry, Lu Ying said. As of right now, Xiao Kun won't harm Shulakong. Chongming said, Chen Xing, find a way to save the white deer first, and everything else will be resolved easily. Chen Xing raised his head. The veil of light was currently caving in under the power of that black-robed man, and it was starting to turn transparent. Who exactly is he? He is the Grey Wolf, Lu Ying replied. His one desire is to let me regain my Yao power, and he has already lost his consciousness. Because Shulakong has dragon energy in him, which comes from the same origin as the power of the grey wolf and white deer. Chen Xing suddenly remembered that on the island in the middle of Lake Barkle, Zhou Zhen's dragon-binding array had not only been unable to trap the grey wolf, it hadn't been able to trap Xiangshu either. If this was the reason, then the grey wolf would have learned that Xiangshu also had dragon power, so he captured him and raced all the way to Karasha, hoping to let Lu Ying take the last of the dragon power in Xiangshu's body as food and come back to himself. Another black fire meteor came crashing down, and Chongming said, "We won't make it. Go to the summit of the Karasha mountains and borrow the power of the divine and earth veins where they intersect to increase the power of the heart lamp. Perhaps that will be able to completely expel the devil god's blood in the white deer's body." Lu Ying said quietly, "Even if it fails, please do not worry, great exorcist. You all have already brought about the revival of all magic, and this time, I trust that you all will personally create a completely new future." Chongming waved his sleeve through the air, sending out a blazing flame that brought them up, flying towards the center peak of the Karasha mountains. Lu Ying said, "I've already been corrupted by the devil god's blood for too many years. Do you have the confidence that you are able to cure me?" Chen Xing grasped Lu Ying's hand, saying earnestly, "I don't know, but for Xiao Shan, you must hold out." Lu Ying looked towards Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan had waited for a long time, just for this very moment, and there were tears in his eyes as he watched Lu Ying fixedly. With that, Lu Ying nodded and said, "Let's do our best, BA." Chongming said, "White deer, are there any other words you'd like to pass on?" Lu Ying thought for a bit, before saying, "I had Xiao Shan find the 1,000-link chain at the summit of the Yin Mountains. The Great Peng already escaped its bonds during the silence of all magic, and it's left the north." Chongming said, cold and reserved, "Guowang has already gone there." Lu Ying said, "There will always come a day when you will find him and Mahamayuri, there is no need to be anxious. If I am unable to hold out this time, then I will have to trouble you to look after them in my stead." Chongming chuckled coldly. "Begin, BA." Chen Xing guessed that before his group had arrived, Lu Ying must have said something to Chongming, but for matters related to the grey wolf, the white deer was definitely the most knowledgeable about what had happened back then. There was no more time for them to waste, so Chen Xing laid Lu Ying flat on the summit, pulling him into his lap. He gently grasped the hand that had already begun to rot, interlacing their fingers. "You're very amazing," Lu Ying said warmly. He laid in Chen Xing's lap and lifted a hand, the index and middle fingers of which gave off the magnificent light of dreams. He gently pressed them to Chen Xing's soft lips, saying, "This is the last thing I can leave to you all, if I have no way to survive." Chen Xing immediately said, "Don't say these kinds of things. Xiao Shan is still waiting for you. Come, BA." The meteors of black fire began to gather in the air, shooting one after the other towards the central peak of Karasha. Without giving them any leeway, Xiao Kan directed the resentment, trying to shoot them down. The wolf pack swarmed forth in full strength, leaving behind the summit to the east as they rushed to climb the central summit. "Lu Ying, come to my side," Xiao Kan said, almost at a roar, as he held the unconscious Yangshu. "Lu Ying, what are you doing?" Chongming shouted, "Xiao Shan, go down to disperse the wolf pack. Leave this place to me." Chongming brought out a blazing ring of flames that blocked the meteors of black fire raining down towards the central peak like a torrential rain. Lu Ying closed his eyes. His hair fell loose, and though one half of his face was rotted away, one half was so beautiful as to shock the soul. He had a beauty to him that was hard to describe with mere words, and with his white robes, he became one with the great, snow-covered land. Chen Xing said quietly, "Lu Ying, put in all your power to fight off the devil god." Then, Chen Xing set ablaze all of the power of the heart lamp, sending it into Lu Ying's body. In that instant, at the peak of the Karasha mountains, a ring of bright light exploded under the dim sky, billowing outwards. Countless dark dreams immediately fought back, entering Chen Xing's consciousness. On the great lands of Siwai, the pain of the Hu people after they fought and died, the heartbreak of separation, the fresh blood that permeated all, the nightmares of the children, all of it gathered up into a monster, its face twisted in a hideous grimace, and it roared loudly at Chen Xing. "This is the realm of dreams," Lu Ying's voice said gently. "The nightmares of the world." In that instant, only Lu Ying and Chen Xing were standing at the peak of the mountains. Bright light shone forth from one of Chen Xing's hands, blocking off countless dark visages that tried to approach and bite them from within the storm of resentment around them. Lu Ying looked around and said earnestly, "The Grey Wolf and I were once the gods of the northern lands that protected the realm of dreams. Our duty was to disperse all of the dreams in this world, thus shattering the resentment and refusal to move on that the devil god planted in the divine land. But hasn't Shu only recently started to revive?" Chen Xing had put in all his power to ignite the heart lamp, but the storm around them was truly too powerful. Though every dark visage that slammed into the barrier of the heart lamp dissolved into powder, even more nightmares would come rushing up. "No," Lu Ying said. "His power has already existed in the divine land for a very, very long time. After that huge battle in ancient times, his blood seeped into the soil of the divine land. Whether it be humans or Yao, all of the plants, living creatures, the birds flying in the sky, the fish swimming in the ocean, all have the influence of the devil god's blood in their bodies. The blood of the devil god, and the blood of the Xianyuan were both deeply rooted and exist in every being that lives on this land, and it has become a part of them that cannot be missing," Lu Ying said. "It fights fiercely in every person's body, and the god of weapons has never given up his goal to conquer the mortal realm. He plants the seeds in the nightmares of the long nights, which give rise to the desire to massacre and slaughter during the bright day." Chen Xing pointed one finger towards the sky, and Lu Ying came to his side, saying, "Right now, let us formally issue our declaration of war against him. Ba. Chen Xing, behind you is not only mankind, but also the flowers and grasses and trees that live in this world, as well as the birds and beasts. Throughout the entire divine land, all living things stand tall at your side. Give your heart lamp to me." Lu Ying stood behind Chen Xing, and his body suddenly erupted with powerful light. His white robes fluttered in the wind, becoming a ghostly silhouette of a god that protected Chen Xing. In front of the two of them, countless nightmares stretched far, gathering into a huge face twisted into a grimace that filled the world. White Deer roared. "Attack!" Lu Ying shouted decisively. "Shatter the nightmares." In reality, at the peak of the Karasha Mountains, a pillar of light shot into the sky. Chen Xing and Lu Ying were bathed in that light, and in that instant, an imperceptible change happened in the earth vein. Resentment billowed up, and behind the grey wolf Xiao Kun, all of the black flaming meteors receded, gathering into the form of Shu, the devil god, who let out a roar. "You mere Yao tribes," Shu's horrific voice roared. "To act so impudently dash." In the next instant, Shu's black flames rushed towards Chongming. But Chongming had long since been prepared, and with a wave of his sleeve, a blazing true flame sprung up in his hand. It was as if 9 bright suns had gathered in his palm, and the burning fire erupted in that very instant with all their might. "Fuck back off to your Huanmo palace!" Chongming roared, infuriated, before he made a fist and punched, sending a stunning blow towards that resentment. Like a hail of meteors showering down at night, a ball of true flame suddenly pierced through the resentment, releasing blazing flames that reached right for the night sky. In the illusory world, Chen Xing flipped his hand over, drawing the power of the heart lamp to the center of his palm, before his left and right palms, one after the other, turned and pushed outwards. Break! Chen Xing and Lu Ying thundered at the same time. The dark nightmares of the myriad realms were instantly shattered under that single strike of the heart lamp. The stars in the sky all began to fall, turning into motes of light that settled on the Karasha range. It's over, Lu Ying said quietly. The dreams of darkness that have entangled me for almost 300 years. Lu Ying. Chen Xing immediately turned and reached out to grab his wrist, but Lu Ying vanished in the air. In reality, the light of the divine and earth veins were gathered up into Lu Ying's body, and Chen Xing immediately opened his eyes, only to see that in his embrace, Lu Ying had turned into countless points of light and vanished. Xiao Shan cried out, Lu Ying! Lu Ying! But those scattered points of light once again regrouped in mid-air, turning into the reborn white deer. It sped through the air, trotting on the very air itself as it leapt into the sky, rushing towards the grey wolf, Xiao Kun, on the summit opposite it. Xiao Kun let loose a howl, tossing the unconscious Yang Shu to one side, no longer heeding him, before he raised a hand. Resentment billowed out, coiling around Lu Ying. With that, the sky echoed with Shi's evil, wild laughter. A mere member of the Yao tribe wants to fight back against a god, they're nothing more than a moth to the flame. At this moment, Che Lufeng finally managed to climb, with great difficulty, onto the summit. Though his feet kept sliding, he managed to grab Xiang Shu. Xiao Kun immediately whirled around, black fire gathering in his hands, and with a loud roar, he sent it flying towards Che Lufeng. But Yuduo climbed up from another part of the cliff, and he shook out the metal chain, charging up with it. Che Lufeng grabbed the metal chain, and with one arm holding Xiang Shu, he leapt down the mountain. The phoenix spread its wings, bringing with it a sea of burning flames as it charged over. With a whirl, it caught Che Lufeng and Xiang Shu, before gliding down to the snowy plain at the foot of the Karasha peaks. The sky was filled with meteors of black fire, which caused a huge avalanche. The white deer fought off the resentment binding it, and with one blow, it sent Xiao Kun flying down the cliffside. Chen Xing and Xiao Shan ran over quickly, and Che Lufeng, along with Xiang Shu, fell into the snow. Xiang Shu! Che Lufeng! Chen Xing shouted anxiously. I'm fine. Che Lufeng said. Check on his condition. Chen Xing picked Xiang Shu up, but Xiang Shu remained as unconscious as he had been before, just like the last time in Kuiji, when his powers had been sealed by the dragon binding array. Chen Xing immediately knelt down and activated the heart lamp, pressing it to the center of Xiang Shu's chest. The avalanche swept over Karasha, and the gathering of wolves all turned tail and ran. Che Lufeng got to his feet with great effort, standing guard in front of Chen Xing alongside Xiao Shan as the wolf pack circled them completely. The white deer flew over, and Lu Ying landed, taking human form. A black silhouette appeared on the snow. The eyes of the rotting grey wolf, Xiao Kun, began to burn with a black fire, his entire body releasing billows of black qi. The phoenix landed on the snow. The grey wolf has been corrupted by the devil god's blood for too long. White deer, retreat is the best strategy here. You've only just recovered, and your Yao power is exhausted. You and I must both rest and replenish our energy, before we can subdue the grey wolf. Lu Ying's gentle lips moved slightly, and he only said a single word. No. He turned his head back to glance at Chen Xing and Xiang Shu, before he then lifted his head up to look at Xiao Kun. He then issued an order, this is my destiny, and no matter what, please do not interfere, Phoenix. With that, Lu Ying stroked the deer antlers. With a gentle tap of his fingers on the staff, the antlers on it turned into a glowing cloud of light, returning to their position on his head. End chapter.